wanted to show you, we had a late addition to the workshop, which is individual conferences. Our visiting writers were so kind to say, hey, we want to meet more with students and community members. So this is a chance to work with world famous writers one-on-one. And if you signed up, we have links, and that would be for tomorrow. Right now we have 15-minute slots, but to be honest, if we don't get a lot of people to sign up, you can probably sit with them for 30 minutes or so. So we were going to look at it this afternoon and see who signed up for what, but definitely go ahead and click on that link and look at who you might want to work with or just chat with about your work, poetry, prose, whatever that is. And again, Rick Jackson, who is the founding director of Meacham, will be introducing the readers today. So I just wanted to, we are passing out programs. Just a quick note, Earl Braggs is reading tonight at Stoneworks. So those of you who were upset if you thought you missed Earl reading last night, guess what? You get to hear him tonight. So please come out, and that's going to be a great time. Also free food, and we'll have some real food and adult beverages and soda and water as well. So again, thanks for coming out. Again, people may be drifting in, but we'll go ahead and get started. And I just want to, you can look on here, we have a lot of sponsors. I want to thank them, and I want to definitely thank the Meacham assistants, Emily Kemp, and then she's having to do double duty because Julie Jansen, who's in charge of the book table, is very ill with a fever, so Emily's been really having to work extra hard, so I appreciate her in the back. And then we have Adeline, who is Perryman, who was the Meacham assistant last year and has just volunteered. She's taking care of all the filming and all that kind of stuff. So thanks everyone, and we will go ahead and get started with the founding director, Richard Jackson.
Okay, so we're actually going to follow the order that's on this sheet. So we begin with Helga Kidder, who is a native of Germany's Black Forest and lives in the Tennessee Hills with her husband, sitting up there, and is one of the earlier poets in UTC's program. And she tells it in one of her own poems, Southeast Tennessee. Because mountains cradle this town, I felt at home when I arrived here in another country. My wished for life boxed up in a crate and shipped from the Black Forest across the ocean. But she ends in her typically metaphoric solution, for now she sees, it steadies my breath in mountain air, and the river's silver ribbon holds me fast. Helga was awarded MFA from Vermont College and is co-founder of the Chattanooga Writers Guild. Her poems have recently been published in numerous journals, and she's participated in workshops in the United States and abroad. She has 5 collections of poems and a new collection in With a Kiss, soon to be published. As one critic said, every poem immerses us in the blessings of experience, blessings of the immigrant, blessings of love and even of suffering, and also of simple causes of joy. Ripened apples, stick bugs, crepe myrtle, and tomatoes glowing in a vivid southern landscape, all braided by intelligent, honest feeling and bright imagination. These are poems I had where the day can be dressed in a robe, where stars travel in gangs and branches clench their fists. Who would not want to enter this world that we encounter, this extraordinary world in the ordinary? I'll get that.
Thank you very much. I am so excited to be here, to be a part of the Meacham, and thank you, Rick Jackson, for giving me the start to poetry. In my current book, Learning Curve, I addressed the history of coming to a different country and what that would mean, and also the history that lies behind and how it never leaves you. So the first poem is When History Convicts. Let it sink in, the constant reminder of the sins of history, not mine. Slip off that garment of cellophane clinging to the mind, universal. I try to laugh, pry this damn thing off me that keeps burning my inside. I wasn't there. It happened without me. Yet everywhere I turn, even in church, someone finds it, the history, and uses it as an example. Yes, the history of that country is buried inside me with my father. It clings to my blood, the sins of the fathers of that time. Sorry. How they shaped the years afterwards, all the sharp-edged slivers left, the preacher throws at me. I've prayed that history will be forgiven. I've prayed. And this is the poem during the COVID time, and a little bit lighter. Keeping your enemy close. Cooped up at home so long it is easy for my neighbor to drape his pet snake around his arm, take it for an open window drive through town. He says, Oscar likes to hang around. The python's head poised in the breeze. I remember Genesis where God cursed the serpent, dust you will eat. My neighbor says, it's a pet, a companion for lonely nights, winding its way through my dreams, dragging dust motes from room to room. He jaunts away, and I turn to my garden's fig tree, its large leaves hiding marble-sized green fruit ripening, birds, squirrels, and I covered. My neighbor is a courageous man to keep what God cursed so close, to live and breathe with each day. Here I have some newer poems from my new book that will be published in this summer, and it's named End with a Kiss. This poem is kind of lighthearted, ode to the remote control. And we all have one, right? Oh, entertainer of the year, you lie sleeping on top of the shelf until I click you to the mood I'm in. You carrier to unknown lands and worlds inviting travel. My bags are always packed to go where you lead me. A prince reigning in the upstairs maid, children swinging their dreams in the park, or an unsolved crime restaged and investigated. You are a thumb and mind exerciser, a bone chiller, a nanny for unruly children, a savior when the heart feels left out. With a click, you tell me what I need to hear. And this is my last poem. I love dogs, but now I can't keep any, so this is the neighbor's dog. A dog named Birdie. In the heat of the day, I unload groceries from my blue Fiat. Car doors opened and closed. She must have heard now standing in the driveway, her dark eyes focused on me. "Hello, birdie," I say, and she perks her ears. "Have you come for a treat?" Memory can be a wonderful thing, so she nods and steps closer as I go inside for a piece of leftover chicken. It has been a hot day. Finally, summer decided to stay. Still, Birdie makes her rounds daily up the small stairs from her yard, past flowering hydrangeas and daylilies to ours, before she continues to the next home. She pads through the neighborhood in her quiet, shy way, edges closer now for my kind words, and a treat will allow me to pat her whitened forehead before she backs away. She's a rescue, remembers punishing hands she can't forget. How do we separate good memories from bad? The constant reminder our emotions hammer into us. So she takes with caution as long as I give, fills herself with my good intentions, forgets the bad, just for the moment that gives me joy, as when I sniff the opened bloom of a peony. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Helga. Moharrari. I don't know, maybe 15, 18 years ago, this kid comes to my office and he says, "I'm a wrestler, I'm here on a wrestling scholarship. And I want to be a poet." I thought, yeah, right. So I sent him away. Then he came back, and I sent him away. He came back, and I sent him away. I was really trying to see how serious is he, and who's damn serious. He's gone on to be managing editor for the Massachusetts Review, an editor for Copper Canyon's What About This? Collected Poems of Frank Stanford, contributor to Constant Stranger, a study of Stanford's life and poems. Foundlings Press and Factory Hollow publish his chapbooks, and his newest poems are forthcoming in several anthologies. Now, when I look at a poem of his like Signal, I'm amazed at the way he wrestles, in a sense, with some of the more difficult issues, and with some of the most astounding images. The poem opens with a seemingly rustic scene, a useful chain link fence covered with frost, slantways to the ground, in an empty field on a dark winter's night. But then we hear how he's experiencing, quote, the feeling of waking up on a comfortable sofa while it's raining and as dark as warm shadow in the soft red of your mouth. So now there's another in the poem. But then he ends off, time wraps tightly around us like barbed wire or an overcoat, or that rope lying on the ground beneath a foot of snow, holding onto nothing, not even the air you breathe. The opening scene now takes us in a different resonance, a different direction, a sign of how art is able to quickly take us through a whole register of emotions in a single poem, which is for me the essence of what poetry can do and the essence of what art can do.
Thank you, Rick. Hell of an introduction. Oh, thank you. And thank you, Sybil, for inviting me in the English department, and Emily, too, and of course, Heather. And also Earl Braggs has always been a great inspiration to me, as well as, of course, Richard Jackson. I'll read 4 or 5 poems, depending on time, 4 or 5 new poems. This first poem begins with an epigraph from a movie called Rebel Without a Cause. Sal Minio's character, as Plato says, "Do you think the end of the world will come at nighttime? Darken. Do you think the end of the world will come at nighttime? The flicker of stars kicking out of step, nothing but the purr of traffic in the city at night. Not even the spit in your mouth to wet your tongue. Not one prayer wheel of hope turning in your mind. Just the accents of car horns in a forest of buildings. Only a man walking home and the cat that follows him. Not even the vowels stuck between your teeth or a drop of holy water between syllables. Just a salty grief caked to your boot heels, the adulthood spat up from rebruised embarrassments. The smell of Marlboros that reminds you of a mustache, nothing but a strand in the ball of your memory's yarn. Not even the night's starry perfume haze or mossy convent walls or the dry leaves of time. Just a bus's motor running, no threats, only a sadness you're drawn to, but stranger than that. The second you become alone and grave on this earth, you learn to bury your own kind in the dark. Visitation. Your daughter called and said you died this morning in your parents' bathroom. I was in front of your Lower East Side studio. Light rain tapping on windows. Light rain tapping like a white cane on windows. I sparked a J right there and imagined you standing next to me on the shimmering sidewalk, the portico awning to your building torn and flapping. Light rain tapping like a white cane on windows. Light rain tapping like crows on windows. When your daughter told me a special kind of ache that did not make me inhale but squeezed my breath out as I thought of us at Brighton Beach. Afternoon rain taps like crows on windows. Afternoon rain taps like tiny seashells on windows that won't catch your reflection again. Your voice reverberates inside the saltwater darkness of my mind, though you are preparing to become a ghost with iridescent wings. Night rain taps like tiny seashells on windows. Night rain taps like a 4-year-old's finger on a window we looked out of while we smoked and saw a black cat's tail curled like the end of an umbrella poking out of a trash can. And I think of us sitting like that. Night rain tapping like a 4-year-old's finger on a window. Night rain tapping like baby teeth against the windows. And you would laugh at the way rainwater has pooled around my ankles and how I am thinking of the time you took off your shirt and showed me the tattoo of your daughter's name inside a heart as my eyes fill with smoke and rainwater while I reflect on you and the phone call that got rid of the wind. In our neighborhood. It could be at 3 o'clock in the morning. The angels are grabbing your heart and working on it. I think at a crosswalk as I watch the streetlights swinging in the intersection. What holds our desires together must be the same invisible force creating currents in the Harlem River, above which clouds break apart, and light from your moon reaches me on 138th Street. The green light at the crossing inside your sleepy heart broke down, and the angels are washing their hands and going nuts. I think while I stand on the sidewalk, realizing you can't step into the same love twice. The saran wrap wind is the paper moon's sister. Whoever has an answer for what troubles us won't last. The last 50 seconds are a pair of Nikes hanging from a power line, giving juice to all the lights I see. It could be at 3 o'clock in the morning, my begging voice, like a church bell underwater, will not sound your heart awake, while a handful of stars make a zodiac, and God answers only unspoken wishes in our neighborhood. Night wind crawls into a plastic bag at the four-way and pretends it is a dog swimming in the river at night. My problems have problems. You are so important to me that if I am wearing a watch, I will take it off and let time go by. From this balcony, sunset's uncontainable light inches closer. The underbelly of a cloud as long as a skyscraper hovers overhead. Dusk's wind pitches to the left as it dodges an invisible misery that stalks each of us. Neither incredible, overwhelming joy one feels with the full weight of the body's exhaustion after a tremendous release, nor eyelashes from an angel can save us. Terrifyingly beautiful little moments can be waiting to twist our noses, hiding behind an anxiety we skirt. Between the air and light we see drift memories once drowned. Build a reservoir deep enough to store barrels and barrels of affection, a Pharaoh's measure. Grow your heart buoyant enough to drink poisoned water and endure just as well. A beehive falls from a leafless branch, splits open. A gust of wind breaks into pieces that search for tales of light. A window 20 stories up falls out of its frame. Here rises your old soul, still able, happily, to see buildings and steam, to hear horns and sirens, to touch the backs of your own hands and smell the banana a child peels in a doorway behind you. Thank you. This is my fifth and final poem. It's called Mailbox Blues. Mailbox Blues. I know not every letter sent arrives. Termites tunnel through soil. A magnolia tree is to my right. Night washes over my missing numbers. I look into a leafless sky at the bottom of a puddle inside a rut. Not all lucky stars get counted, the magnolia, stiff and twisted, reminds itself. In the middle of faded verbena I stand, my post covered with rime. A shaving of light brushes against my door. Mites choose secrets that haven't left the tree. 3 stars disappear, and a barn owl hops along a downward-reaching branch. The owl slips on dark without making a sound. I stand near the chewed-up tree, and chatter from the stars keeps the owl awake. We still have prayers to receive in this world. Thank you.
Ready? Sure. So Kris Whorton is originally from Boulder, Colorado, and has lived in Chattanooga since 2002. She teaches creative writing and scientific writing and literature at the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga here, but also to teens and adults in the community and the incarcerated in Hamilton and Bradley County jails, which I think is really incredibly admirable. I think she spends half her life in the outdoors, for her poems explore the mystery that is our physical, natural world. In fact, I think her poem Burn Pile draws a revealing analogy between the art of writing poetry and feeding a burn pile. It begins not just with the lighting, but a gathering and feeding of elements. It takes a few minutes and some hope to light the burn pile. Once I get the handheld torch and lighter working, and the kudzu branches free of the dirt, the dead rosemary shrubs from the yard this hard last winter, and leaves from the 100 trees in our yard. And then she goes on completing the analogy. Earthy and essential, the smoke lifts into the air and flames, just a flicker of light and heat growing, burning first the dried leaves as the fire builds, then the branches and logs, as I poke and push, create gaps for it to breathe. I can't think of a better analogy for the way that we work as writers. And yet the poem also stays true to its surface subject, so the burning. No wonder Jessica Barksdale writes, Kris Whorton's carefully wrought poems are in form, but wild in nature, and in nature. These are poems that have what W.S. Merwin once called the handprint of necessity. Kris Whorton.
Thanks so much, Rick, and thanks, Sybil, also for all your efforts and for your cruise. Hi, Julie. So Burn Pile is from my new collection, which will come out next year. It's called Everyday Omens. So the last poem I'll read today is from that collection. But the other poems I'll read are from my collection Alchemy, which came out in 2003. 2023. Yeah, I don't know. What day is it? So I do write about nature. I also am always sort of writing about running. It's something I've spent a great deal of my life doing. And I was out on a run this morning thinking about a particular race my husband and I did some years ago. And I loved these random, we'd come out of the woods and cross roads, and I loved the names of the roads. So this commemorates 2 of the roads that we crossed during this. It was a 100-mile trail race through the woods in Wisconsin. So this poem is called Somewhere Between Highways ZZ and P. In the kettles and moraines of southern Wisconsin, in the banjo strum of the green toad and the strange garbled call of a bird we can't stop to find, in the cycle of our breath, there is a nowhere land of day and night, of wanting to sleep so deeply not even the gods can wake us. The vibrant day's green makes my head throb. The night's black is solid as pain. The distance we cover makes us forget the earth we already crossed over, until we step from the woods onto Highway ZZ, and the beam from my flashlight shows a starless, custard-dense sky, curving trees, the luminescent stripe of the road. Night moves to the flat in-between time. The birds start up. You stand like a sleepwalker. I wish for daylight to bring you back. Thank you. So this goes in a totally different direction. I had, a yearly exam last year, and I thought, this is such a weird experience being a human, and particularly a woman. So this is called Women Reunited with Uterus. Some odd things: a goat wearing a necklace, a teacup carrying astronaut tethered as he roams outside the shuttle, a dog driving a limousine through the narrow streets of Lisbon. Odder still, the man, your doctor, standing in front of your spread legs, your feet in stirrups, paper towel blanket covering your exposed parts, as he talks about the vaccination, gas prices, and how hot it's been these last weeks. You want to say, get on with it already. It's not like you're interviewing for the job. He tells you everything looks normal. And you remember 7th grade biology, your teacher showing your teacher showing the class a fist-sized burgundy Bosch pear, holding the fat end up. This is your uterus, he said. And the boys looked at the girls. The girls felt the future and perhaps past of legs spread in front of men they barely knew and never wanted to open for in any way. What a mystery life is when you die a little 1,000 ways, day after day, and no one sees you. I can tell you that took a turn in a direction I wasn't expecting. This one started in a direction I wasn't expecting. This is called Even If, and there isn't really anything I can say about it to preface it, so there it is. Even if. In my clavicle, I carry a Barbie and her friend's lunchbox, and an envelope of cocaine a lover gave me in 1984. I had a heart-shaped stone as well, carved from lapis lazuli, but the surgeon removed it along with the tendon he said I wouldn't need. Sometimes my heartache isn't enough. So I've added more as I've traveled the world, from humans who weren't using their angst, and from dead trees. A handful from an amphora I found in a village on Crete, and another I found on a mountaintop in southern Argentina, a stone's throw from Chile. In my pocket, I carry all the nights of my life, over 20,000 of them now. A number that fills me with a dread, not unlike a hot rash that appears first on my feet, blistering and turning my skin purple, before jumping to my abdomen, my forearms, my neck. I won't survive another 20,000, which is another kind of dread. Utter darkness keeps stealing my life. I can't hold myself still and feel my way through the wall of tar, even if I tell myself it is only a waterfall and there is another side. Even if I will find the moon one day, even if bumblebees throw gold from their hives, I will count backwards from 20,000 until I reach that moon. So I'm going to read one more from Alchemy, and then I'll have this shorter poem to end with. So in this one, I reference my boy dog. This isn't him, but my friend made this shirt. I think it's really cool. So this is called Early Monday Morning. I can't stop pointing out the stars. Hours before sunrise, I'm on my front porch, a deck that faces woods and darkness. We have no streetlights, no neighbors, so few homes in this part of town. The stars are a map I'm still learning to read. Below me, my yard is dense, darkness I can't see into no matter how many times I blink. Above, the stars form a patchwork, some paths, a sequined banner of bright, less bright. My boy dog sits at my side, awaiting the answer to some existential question I'm not aware of, one that is bigger than, why am I here? And because the answer doesn't come, I think the question might be, why are there so many shades of darkness? Or why do we cry when we're happy? I show my boy Orion, recently returned to our sky, and the dippers, constellations I've known since I was a child. In Argentina, I searched the stars the same way. White and blue, yellow pinpricks, arms of the Milky Way reaching from Chile to the mountains behind me. No dippers, no knife, no belt, no handle to hold the familiar. The pre-dawn black all around and above, as unknown to me on that mountain as I was in that world. Had I disappeared, a grain of soil in the midst of a million others, I might never have been found, as those unknown stars were gone to me, as we all are, each of us, day to day in this world where we think we know our place, but we can't always recognize what we're seeing. And this last one, as I said, is in my new collection out next year, Everyday Elements. This poem is called A Strange Relief. Let go the grandfather who snapped his fingers at you instead of asking for the salt or extra mashed potatoes because you weren't worth the words. Let go his preference for your brother. Instead of letting him see the hurt on your face, show him a side of the moon anyone unremarkable might see. Let go the father who tried to girl you with his words. Stand up straight, comb your hair, don't walk so loudly through the house. The father who thought any words of explanation for a wrongdoing were simply an excuse. You haven't seen a storm in his eyes in almost 40 years, but let go the way it cut you. Fill your pockets with apple blossoms. Make your own golden rules. There's no need to be the bearer of quicksand grudges, no sense in remembering. Let the memories fall away from your body, mute as stones. Thank you.
I'm not sure what Danielle Hanson, another UTC graduate, has not done in the literary world. 3 collections of poems, book of literary criticism, editor of an anthology, marketing director, and member of an editorial board, teaching poetry at the University of California, Irvine. But also she's been a poet in residence in a couple of places, recipient of reading and workshop grant in Poets and Writers, several other grants. I should add all this of awards that she's worked with poets and visual artists to create the show Alloy, an exhibit of creative mutualism, and with puppeteers to create Haunting the Wrong House, and an upcoming show in 2026. Do you sleep?
I don't have a full-time job.
That's a full-time job.
Yes, it's not paid.
So it's not surprising to me that her poems, often epigrammatic, have such a range as they do. So I'd like to introduce you to her by reading part of one that speaks to our troubled times, which I think is really important today. The moon is disappearing into the fields. The moon is disappearing into the fields as war approaches the horizon. Morning crawls from a crack and seeks a cave to hide. The crows refuse to cede the morning to the doves. Our shadows cling to us for warmth. How do we unfold the shrouds that hold our souls? How do we lift them from sleep like angels in last judgment? How do we not let the path walk off itself and be lost? There are holes all over the earth that lead the way to the underworld. There are few mountains for the gods to live. It sounds prophetic in a way, but in fact, I think it's a real description of our times. So this is a poet we're lucky to listen to today.
Thanks for the introduction, Rick, for the Eco Boost. And thanks for having me at such a special Meacham. Meacham's always special, but this is extra special Meacham. All right, I'm going to start with some new work. I'm writing really short things. It's my attention span these days. Mother Magnolia. The magnolia cupped her hands around the small face of the wind. It continued to scream, blue-faced. He could not calm himself out of existence. Thanks. Coyote. The crows throw their caws from the eucalyptus down to the shape of a coyote in brush. The shadow stands, shakes the calls off onto rocky dust. It only wants to be silent. Let air shape around its fur like a tongue on a pup. It stands and looks at us, quiet eyes and curious. It turns and drifts downhill. I love the coyotes. We have these puppy coyotes in our neighborhood, and one of them almost ran full force into us the other night when we were walking because it was being chased by its brother and didn't care. Who rode when they were here or rows now? Okay, probably, I would say, what, a third of your students back in the day were rowers? I've taken up rowing again, and it's been foggy lately. So here's a poem. Foggy morning hike. There are spiders of the air and spiders of the ground, racket and basket of web lit with dew. The sun is hung over from drinking too much of air and dim and indistinct just up over the hill. A passing jogger tells a myth about a coyote, and every turned corner is now adventure. But of course, the hill hound is gone, crouched low under sagebrush, sunk into ground, like that same dew caught by spider. A Vareo cocks his head at me. What am I doing here? I question whether I'm still wild enough for this morning. Rowing was of course canceled, but I saw a man in a canoe become smaller into the ocean. As the world recedes, I feel myself grow larger until I'm all that's left in this world. And I love a good travel poem, and I love seeing your travel pictures on social media. I just love taking a little trip on my phone. So I have a few travel poems. I'm going to start with one that I'm reading for Rick, and I think he'll know why. Some things you need to know about it is there's a line in here from Cesar Pavese, We Wipe and Standing Still, that we read in Rick's class. And it also mentions the painter Tintoretto, which Rick introduced, I think, most of us to. So Venice, 1991, 2016. Looking through time at the past is like looking across a still lagoon, hazed through heat and humidity. Truth is there, unclear. At 19, I stood near this Venetian water, back to San Giorgio Maggiore, face to St. Mark's Square. A pigeon is perched on my head, trying to gain footing, but slipping and clawing, wings stretched out for balance. We had woken early to escape the heat, light slipping down the building to our heads and empty streets. Delicious mornings, we ripen standing still. Then I'm here again, adult and steady, overlooking the narrow Mercuria, behind the golden horses, through the back of the clock tower, through time and onto the square. My daughter Olivia is 12, and she stands still, face to St. Mark's Square, arms outstretched, pigeons balanced perfectly on her arms, She's a statue, the lady of pigeons. The light on her hair is clarity. We wander to the north end of the city, where the streets empty of tour groups and heat. Step into the church of Madonna del Orto Tintorettos to see the master's work, to share what I know of beauty. We see the miracle of St. Agnes and idolatry of the golden calf. The girl stares out from presentation of the Virgin at Temple, drawing us into the crowded scene. Olivia, love, is she you or is she me? Since we have a little bit of time, I'm going to slip this one in. So speaking of St. Agnes, she was one of the virgin saints back in, what, the 1200s or something? Probably earlier than that. These were young women who refused to get married and then were killed because they didn't do what their parents or their society said. St. Agnes' story is her suitors stripped her naked and were going to drag her down the street to the brothel and then kill her. And her body miraculously grew hair to cover itself. Another thing you should know of St. Agnes is that she's the patron saint of teenage girls. And this is part of a series of poems about saints in the afterlife based on the pictures from the Middle Ages where you see them at their tools of martyrdom. And I just think it's funny to imagine that that's their entire afterlife. So St. Agnes in the afterlife. I spend so much of my days combing and braiding, I'm not sure if I'm in heaven or purgatory. The streams of pleas from teenage drama queens is as endless as time. They worry about their backstabbing friends, but when I was their age, I was dragged through the streets and stabbed through the throat. Try being popular when your body has covered itself in hair, and any boy who liked you, even if they were the worst, has been blinded. My head is on display in a case in Rome, perpetually grounded, but please, go on about your inability to match your eyeshadow to your shirt. At least I have my lamb to keep me company, although I often lose her in the clouds, or find her with the Virgin Mary, who teases me with, "Who has a little lamb now?" Through all this, my hair still grows. May it one day cover us all. All right, I'm going to read another travel poem. And this one, I don't think it's my best poem, but I'm going to read it because Greg Delisle is here. And this has the name of a lot of birds in it. And the reason I know the name of all these birds in here is because I was walking around with my Merlin bird ID, IDing birds. Greg helped develop that. The Birds of Costa Rica, 2014. The night before our drive, a monkey had given birth, and her family screamed their excitement up to the heavens and down into our heads. They continued throughout morning, out-shouting the great kiskadee and shining honey creeper past manakin and forest falcon. From the coast, from the yellow-throated toucan and yellow-crowned night heron, we drove hours into the air of Costa Rica, across the American Isthmus to the Cerro de la Muerte, so far into the clouds it brought us to our knees. The chef brought herb tea to settle us, a welcome to this heaven. We were on a quest for the resplendent quetzal, emerald with red tail drawing eye to sky, the black thoughtless eyes brimming night. Although our coastal hotel, we were tired, although our coastal hotel had been comfortable, a place for us and our young and the howler monkeys and theirs. Now in the mountains, we could sip tea and watch the blue of the black-faced solitaire sipping herbs outside our door. The hummingbirds, the lancebill, the violeteer, the wood star, the mountain gems, gathering around vines at the trout farm, long-tailed, silky flycatchers flagging feathers over cloud forest. Morning after morning, we would wake at daybreak to follow a guide to the edge, calling the quetzal, hearing his reply, his body staying hidden behind trees. He sent his call to sniff us and found us wanting. On our last day, we newly acclimated residents of clouds, welcomed by the howling of acorn woodpeckers, set out again before breakfast. On a limb held up by the air itself was a new-birthed quetzal, resting after his meal. His colors were dull, but his eyes were bright, and bottomless, the eyes of a dream just out of its shell, night laid out at its feet. So many nice names. All right. I think I have time for maybe, okay, I'm going to do, all right, I'm going to do a short one. Where the desert meets the sea. The ocean climbed the ridges of the shore, wave over wave, looking for water, but the sand had drunk it all. So I wrote that on a whaling trip. We went down to Baja California a few weeks ago to a lagoon where the gray whales give birth. And the community surrounding that lagoon shuts down for 2.5 months a year. They, forgo all their business to allow the whales to have their space. And they pivot the entire economy over to these little yurt camps. There are, I think, 5 of them around the lagoon. And when they welcome in eco-tourists, and the fishermen take you out in boats to see the whales. The grandmothers of the town cook dinner for you, and the 20 to 30-year-olds who speak English are the tour guides who tell you about everything because they know everything about this area. So we went on this trip with a bunch of environmentalists, and Biden's EPA lawyer and the guys who invented IMAX and the people who started the Save the Whale campaign. So it's just this magnificent trip. And I'm going to read 2 more poems. One of them is one that I read down there. It's the only poem of mine that I have memorized, and it's because of the stupid puppet show that I had to memorize it. And it's from this book, which has Carrie Harrison's art on the front of it, which this book that we're launching tomorrow night also has Carrie Harrison's art on the front of it. She's a former student. I just want her to be here today through that. So, and is Jerry Steinman here? Okay, all right. It doesn't even seem weird anymore, eating his dead wife's ashes and his cereal every morning. He enjoys being with her every day, her inside him for a change. If the cereal is sweetened, he thinks of her eyes. Bran reminds him of her navel and how like a bowl it was. He doesn't know what will happen when he runs out of her again. And the reason I asked if Jared's here is because in the anthology that we're launching tomorrow night, Jared has this amazing, splendid poem about what he did with his father's ashes. So pick up a copy of the anthology for that, or hit up Jared for the story. And the second reason I wanted to do that after talking about the trip to the whales is the day after I read that at the whaling retreat, this fabulous woman sits down next to me at breakfast the next morning. She used to be a model for Oscar de la Renta, and she lost her husband last year and has his ashes, and wanted to let me know that she's been wondering what to do with them. And now she thinks she knows what she wants to do with it, but she's a little worried because he was cremated in a coffin and she doesn't want to eat the wood. So, last poem I'm going to read, I wanted to have in this space because I had a little online workshop going for a while, and Melanie Jordan and Julia Beach workshopped this with me, and so I also want them to be in the room. So, pastoral. A stand of mailboxes poses as cow at the side of highway, while yellow flowers strain to see over grasses. Full crops of snails ripen on their stalks. Sky presses down on mountain, mountain presses up on sky. I arrive in the town at dusk and stand on a hill looking over the rooftops. I see men hammering down the sky, their blows like thunder. Thank you.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming, and I also want to shout out to Helga up there, who is the English Department Secretary, but in fact is the English Department head honcho. The department would fall apart without her. And she's here at all these readings. It's just amazing loyalty and love. Thank you.
All right,
tonight at Stoveworks, and then we'll be back at UTC tomorrow night in the Rock Reading Room in the library for a celebration of the anthology, which is a bunch of really cool poetry by former UTC students. And so it's a great inspiration for all of you guys who are student writers now. So I hope you'll pick it up either now or tonight, or tomorrow night, or tonight even, because we will sell books all the time. So thanks for coming out, and we'll see you at the other events.
Oh, she would know. Good.
But you should give that, let the other people in first about what's going on. Just if anybody's hearing it,
It's going to be there. Okay.
home.
Yeah.
Let somebody.